It is actually Wednesday, August 2nd at 6 p.m. Even though normally we have our meetings on Tuesday nights, the first Tuesday we honored National Night Out. So it is Wednesday, August 2nd. I'll call the meeting to order. Tonight, our invocation will be led by Pastor Ron Lawler. Family Bible, Pastor Lawler, I'd like to thank you for your service to the city and to our police department for your many years as chaplain. And so will you please lead us in the invocation? And following that, I will lead us in a pledge of allegiance. So I invite you to stand for the invocation. Oh, well, then we will just have a moment of silence. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, I had heard Pastor Lawler was actually going to retire and move away, must have gotten away from us by now. So many occasions has he come for our invocation, so we're going to miss the good pastor. Tonight's meeting is being streamed live on YouTube and Facebook and will be broadcast on cable channel 10 HD 1090 following the meeting. Attendees are participating in person and via teleconference. Guests that are included in staff presentations will be excused at the conclusion of the agenda item as appropriate. And I will turn to our clerk for a roll call at this time.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor Pro Tem Heisen.
Present.
Councilmember Wiesner.
Present.
Councilmember Stuckey.
Present.
Councilmember Hoffmeyer.
Present.
Councilmember Marshall.
Present.
Councilmember Wiggenstein.
Present.
Mayor, City Councilmember Munns has requested to be excused this evening.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion to excuse Councilor Munns.
I move that we excuse Councilor Munns.
Second.
So, motion and a second to excuse Councilor Munns. Motion by Councilor Hoffmeyer and second by Councilor Wiggenstein. All in favor signify by raising your right hand. Looks like that passes unanimously. So, we will move on to our agenda. We have several items on our agenda, and unless somebody would like to change anything and it doesn't look like it, the agenda will be approved as presented. We don't have any proclamations for this evening and no honors or recognitions, but we do have a community presentation. And tonight, our community presentation is from Big Brothers, Big Sisters of Island County, Annual Report Executive Director Tiffany Scribner. Tiffany?
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you for making time for me this evening. I appreciate being here, and I'm delighted to share with you all today. As you have already stated, I am Tiffany Scribner, and I'm the Executive Director of Big Brothers, Big Sisters of Island County. You may be asking yourself, who exactly are we and what do we do? And that's what I'm here to tell you, as well as what we've been up to. We are a local nonprofit. We were founded in 1999. Is there a way to get this to stop auto? Thank you. Please stand by while we experience technical difficulties. I'm going to keep talking a little bit, though, and so we don't end up here all night. We are part of a larger nationwide network of Big Brothers Big Sisters programs, and that program has existed for over 125 years successfully. We offer the oldest, best known, and most effective evidence-based youth mentoring programs in the world. Big Brothers Big Sisters of Island County is one of the smallest and last remaining local independent chapters, and as you already know, we serve a very unique and diverse population, including many military, rural, and urban families. As many of you know, we are housed in a modular home that was scheduled for a controlled burn with the fire department in the year of our founding. And we asked the city to instead allow us to renovate and use that building as our offices. And through your kindness and the support and strength of our community, we were able to do so, and we continue to use those offices to this day. We exist to create and support mentoring relationships that ignite the power and promise of youth. And our vision is that all youth achieve their full potential. We partner with parents and guardians, volunteers, and our community so that children in our program achieve higher aspirations, greater confidence, better relationships, they avoid risky behaviors, and they experience educational success. All right. What do we do? At our core, we are defenders of potential. We provide caring, reliable mentors aged 15 to 115 that we call BIGs and match them with youth in our community who are referred to as our littles. The match process is rigorous. It involves parental engagement, safety assessments, thorough and consistent oversight by agency staff, and background checks at multiple levels. Our services are structured so that each match can develop and grow organically based on the strengths and skills of each mentor and the needs and the interests of youth. Our BIGs are community members who care and who are willing to show up and make a commitment to share their skills and their life experience with the youth. Our littles are Island County youth who are in need or want of a mentor, most of whom live on Whidbey Island. And most of the children we work with, about 2/3 of them, live in low-income and or single-parent or kinship-led homes. How does it work? People apply through our website, they walk in, or they're referred through partners such as the school systems, pediatric care, the Department of Children, Youth, and Families. They have an orientation and interviews, there are references and background checks, training based strongly in safety to keep kids safe. And then those kids and those bigs and littles are matched based on those skills and interests of the bigs and the needs and interests of the littles. It is not simply first come, first served, but based on meaningful connection and an eye towards successful outcomes. We have 3 program options. Our oldest and maybe best known is community-based, where folks meet 2 to 4 times monthly at a time that works for bigs and littles. And they go to the movies, they might walk on the beach, cook, run errands together. The focus is on fun, new experiences, and social emotional learning. We have a site-based program. Folks meet once a week, usually in the school system, at a local school for about an hour. Bigs might help the little with schoolwork. They might play together at recess, have lunch together. The focus is on academics as well as the social and emotional learning. And in 2022, well done, tech department, thank you. In 2022, we added a new program, DINO, or Dabble in New Opportunities. After Island County was awarded $500,000 to support youth mental health, and due to the efforts of State Legislative Representative for the 10th District, Dave Paul. Our agency received a large share of this funding and has put it to work providing new experiences, group mentoring, and fun to youth without barriers. Events DINO has provided include a Touch-a-Truck event with first responder vehicles, thanks to all those first responders in our community. Pilot for a Day, where youth learned about being a pilot and were able to enjoy a short flight by partnering with the Young Eagles program and Cascade Aviation at the Skagit Airport. Equine assisted therapy through Bramblewood Farms and the Northwest United Hearts program. Yoga, meditation, career experiences, trips to the zoo, aquariums, professional and semi-professional sporting events, as well as scholarships to summer camps and other educations like music and horseback riding lessons. We just kicked off a 4-part series of events where those who want to learn how to play or already love playing Dungeons and Dragons can join us. Monthly, we have agency-sponsored events for all of your youth in all of these programs, allowing youth to connect with each other as well as with their match. And we have a yearly match-iversary celebration where our match coordinators are continually monitoring the status of matches with regular calls and in-person meetings to ensure the safety of everyone in our program. Our services are provided completely free of charge to all youth and families who reside in Island County. The vast majority of youth on our programs are located here on Whidbey Island, although Dino program is serving Camano Island youth. And we continue to look forward to expanding our programs to be able to support all of the youth in Island County. Our annual operating budget comes from a variety of sources, but every single dollar is raised through a gift provided to provide a brighter future for youth in Island County. This includes individual donations from donors such as yourselves, our community members, and local businesses who support the work we do through sponsorships and givings. We continue to seek out local community grants and support from foundations such as Island Thrift, who is our largest single donor, and the Whidbey Community Foundation, who has supported us since their beginnings. But the largest portion of our funding remains income from concentrated fundraising events, such as our well-known and loved Festival of Trees. Festival is our largest annual fundraiser, and this year we will celebrate our 25th anniversary of the event. Be sure to mark your calendars. We're going to need you there on Friday, December 1st for the gala and the auction. Tickets will be on sale this year on our website starting on October 15th. We will be doing a number of things to make this year special since it's our silver anniversary, and you aren't going to want to miss out on all the fun. In 2022, we added Mingle with Kringle, which is a much more laid-back, no-fuss community cocktail party featuring photos with Santa for the adults, dancing and door prizes, and a host of weekend events surrounding the festival. Mingle with Kringle will take place on Saturday night, and those tickets are much more reasonable at $25 a pop. Details are available on our website for both of those, as well as our yearly golf tournament, which we just completed, and the Whidbey Island Scavenger Hunt, which has already occurred this year. We have grown in the last few years from a dip during the pandemic of only myself and one other staffer to 5 full-time staff and 1 contract employee. We have 9+, soon to be 10, when our newest employee finishes up her degree later this month, degrees in social work, psychology, anthropology, and the humanities. In 2022, we served 126 Island County children through these 3 programs, which is about 5 times as many were served during 2021. We project that we will serve over 350 youth by the end of this year. As of this morning, we have 688 children signed up for our Dino program, and there are over 300 who are regularly attending, most of whom have attended 4 or more events, and some of whom have attended 12 or more. Why does this matter? Why does all of this matter? Because with mentors as support and guides, youth facing adversity become responsible, productive citizens, able to achieve lifelong success, which benefits our families, our community, our schools, and our businesses. Because I have had a mom call me crying, thanking us because their child, who experienced the loss of an older sibling to suicide 4 years ago, made a friend for the first time in as many years while attending a dino trip. Because our youth report improved mental health and a decrease in suicidal ideation, a decrease in risky behavior, a decrease in skipping school. They have improved academic outcomes and improved relationships with their families. Because all of us, if we take a minute and think about it, have someone in our past who showed up and believed in us and was there with the right words at the right time with the right support when we needed them. And that's what our program provides. Because mentors help make us into who we are. Because mentoring works, and we are defenders of potential. Currently, we have 235 littles on our waiting list, waiting to be matched, waiting to be provided a mentor, hoping for someone who will show up for them. And that number is growing literally every single day. If you know of someone that would like to volunteer to be a big, would like to join our board of directors, or would like to donate to enable us to continue to provide this programming to our community, or even if you'd just like more information about the agency, please stop by our office, contact me directly, call or sign up on our website. You can make a donation directly through our website. You can sign up to be a big through our website. I look forward to speaking to each and every one of you. Thank you for your support, your continued support of our program. I truly believe we are bigger together. Thank you for your time, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Tiffany. Great program and great presentation. Thank you very much. Any questions or input, Council? Councilor Hoffmeyer. Councilor Wiesner.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. All I can say is thank you, Tiffany. I mean, what you do for the community and what the small group of people do in our community is very important, and you know you've got my support.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Councilor Hoffmeyer. Okay. Same thing.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tiffany. Okay, we'll move on now to the next item on our agenda, which is citizen comment period. Citizens may comment on consent agenda items or subjects of interest not listed on the agenda at this time. Citizens will have the opportunity to comment on the remaining agenda items during the meeting as appropriate. Citizens can also visit our website prior to our meetings for methods to submit public comment or contact the city clerk, Julie Nestor, by phone or email. When submitting comments, please include your name and address. Public comments sent anonymously will be shared with the mayor and council, but will not be displayed. We have received 2 new public comments since our last regular meeting, one from Traynor Hunt of Coopville regarding traffic conditions, and one from Pearl Almberg regarding the Windjammer Park splash pad. The comments are displayed here. Okay, I will ask then if there is any members of the public present who wish to speak to items not listed on the agenda?
Yes,
And-
Mayor?
Yes, okay.
We have Zach Phillip, who
Okay.
wishes to speak about utilities.
Zach?
Council members, Mr. Mayor, good evening. My name is Zachary Phillip. I moved here to the island, to Oak Harbor, in October of 2013. Bought my house that same year, same month. My utility bill when I bought my house was roughly around $100 a month. Right now, my family's been gone over in Japan visiting with family over there since the end of school, June. My utility bills, still, just me living by myself with only gardening, it's me and my dog, and gardening vegetables. My utility bill for last month alone was $239. How is this possible? You know, I don't understand it. I got my last 3 bills. When my family was here in May, we had a $232 bill. June, it was $266. And then this month by myself, I'm at $240. This really is unacceptable for us citizens here. How are we supposed to be able to afford all this? I know we're talking about cutting it down $14. $14 isn't going to help. I'm looking at my bill. We had no rain in June or July, really, and yet we're paying $14.50 for storm sewage treatment. We're not using any storm sewage. Why are we, I'm curious why we're getting charged for these amounts on this bill when they're not even being used or utilized. Can we please really, really cut into this thing? And I mean, I understand I was one of the, oh goodness gracious, I forgot what they're called now, planning commissioners when we built the facility down here, and I asked many questions, and a lot of those questions were, oh, well, it's not going to break. Oh, well, it's going to be perfect. We don't have to worry about it. Oh, this is not going to happen. And lo and behold, a month in, it was broken. But I don't understand how we can fix this, but we need to. If anyone would like to see my bills, I got them right here. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else for public comment? Okay. Seeing none, we will next go to the consent agenda. And I think under the consent agenda, we have items number A through D. And if there's no questions about anything on the consent agenda, it will be approved as presented. Yes, Councilor Hoffmeyer.
Is Kate Rose attending tonight?
She's not here. Okay, next item on the agenda is mayor's comments. Kudos to Marina staff. We were recently made aware of some great reviews posted to the marina.com website. The site has recognized the Oak Harbor Marina with a Boater's Choice Award for the past 3 years. So well done, Marina staff. National Night Out, last night staff from Fire, Police, Parks, Recreation, Public Works, along with many other partnering agencies and organizations hosted National Night Out at Windjammer Park. I had the opportunity to attend this wonderful event, and I want to thank all those who worked to make this happen. It was a great evening and very, very well done. Thank you. Active Transportation Plan. The community is invited to attend a virtual meeting from August 17 from 6 until 8 p.m. to discuss the draft Action Transportation Plan. So that's August 17th from 6 until 8 p.m. Facilities maintenance. Air duct cleaning was performed at several city facilities. UV lights have also been installed on all of the HVAC units to aid in removing airborne contaminants. City office closures. The utility office will be closed on August 16th from 11:30 to until 4:30, and all city offices will be closed on August 24th from 10:45 a.m. to 1:15 p.m. for staff training. And so we have some upcoming events that are displayed on the screen right now. Take a moment. Okay, so I'll turn to council for council comments. Councillor Hoffmeyer.
Yeah, National Night Out last night was amazing. Captain Slowick and the rest of the PD did an amazing job getting that event up and going this year. It was really nice to see the South Whitby Fire Department up here. That was really cool to see. National Night Out's a Tuesday, so we're here on a Wednesday. This is the second year in a row that our Wednesday, first Wednesday meeting in August happens to coincide with the Sounds of Summer concert series. So that might be something to look at next year if they're going to continue to stake out that first Wednesday. You know, we might want to look at the ordinance and maybe move this meeting to Thursday. I'm happy to be here anytime, but I know that most of the audience that might be out there is probably out having fun, which I totally understand. So that might be something to look at next year. And I think that's all I had tonight.
I like that idea. My spouse and a few other people I know are out there listening to that music. Yes. Okay, yes, Councillor Seki.
Might be putting our Public Works Director on the spot. In lieu of not seeing Brian Smith here, as most of you know, I dabble in social media, we'll say. And there were some concerns that were brought up about the splash park not working as intended. I know Brian sent a brief email out about the paths and everything not working. And also we saw a comment on there. Could you give a little more or at least explain the email as well, what's going on with the splash park?
Yeah, as many of you will recall, when I first came here last year, before Brian arrived last fall, I did my own literally twisting of individual valves to try to get that system to work. The short answer is it has issues. And a lot of it is that you cannot actually change the timing or some of the flows very easily. But what I did is went ahead and just turned everything up regardless, which probably used a lot of water, during those hot summer months. So it's a balancing act, and I really appreciate the presentation I heard where they want to make some software improvements and things like that so that it really can be turned up during the hot days and turned down during what was that? Anyway, and whatever that person said or whatever that was, yes, I agree with that. So anyway, that's the short answer.
Yeah, and to add for that, I mean, they're trying to repair it, and I think we get a lot of comments on it, so I think staff is diligently working, trying to get it to run better, but like we said here, it's got a lot of difficulties, unfortunately.
And one other question, unrelated, if you don't mind, Zach came and spoke about the treatment plant, and it's a big issue, but would you mind just touching on the one question that was about why we charge for wastewater when there's no rain?
Oh, yeah, and I think that was stormwater.
I apologize.
Is that the way I think I interpret that correctly?
If you don't mind.
Yes, that's a question we often get, so it's a good one just to answer for the community. The stormwater is based on the amount of projects that need to be done for us to stay in compliance with the state's NPDS permit, which is our state permit, and I won't try to spell out the acronym for NPDS. And so that is what the rate is based on. It doesn't matter if it's raining. Some people say, hey, I live on the top of the hill. Why do I have to pay? Hey, I live on the bottom of the hill. Why do I have to pay? There's no catch basins near my house. Where do I have to pay? So they're all good questions, but it's not really based on any of that. And I think people are used to, like with water, right? You're based on your consumption. So it's a very good question. It's just stormwater, again, what the council develops every 2 years, as you know, is a list of projects that keep us in compliance with that permit. If we don't stay in compliance with that permit, typically third-party law firms will sue us under tort law, and we will go into courts and we will deal with it there. And so we work very hard to try to maintain compliance.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
No other council comments? Okay. We will go to item number 6 on our agenda. Item number 6 is the continuation of public hearing, ordinance number 1979, approval of franchise agreement, Comcast Cable Communications LLC. Tonight we have from Hillary's firm, we have attorney Lisa Marshall and of Kenyon Dyson and our city administrator Blaine Oborn
Yeah,
to
just-
discuss this.
Yes, Blaine Oborn, Oak Harbor City Administrator, and thank you for acknowledging our expert here, Lisa Marshall, attorney through Hillary's firm here, and we've had a lot of discussion, but we're still working on the directives from the council, and so what I'm recommending is just really to allow us more time to work on these directives and to provide more information to you. I'm recommending that we go ahead, that the council go ahead and move with a motion to extend this another month. So the recommended motion is on the board to continue the public hearing of ordinance number 1979 for a franchise agreement with Comcast Cable LLC to September 5th. And then we'll be able to, in the interim, city attorney and Ari will work on providing information to the council to address some of the concerns that arose and why the council decided to continue the ordinance from last time instead of passing it.
Yes, Councilor Stuckey.
I was just going to make the motion. I'm going to make a motion to continue the public hearing for ordinance number 1979, franchise agreement with Comcast Cable Communications LLC to September 5th, 2023.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and second. Motion reads exactly like the recommended action that was presented there. Motion made by Councilor Stuckey, second by Councilor Wittgenstein. No other input or questions. All in favor signify by raising your right hand. Looks like that passes unanimously. Thank you. Okay. We will now move on to item number 7 on the agenda, ordinances and resolutions. This is Resolution 2317, Department of Ecology Shoreline Planning Grant Application. And it looks like we have our Public Works Director, Steve Schuler. Welcome, Steve.
Thank you very much. Yeah, this grant application is really to take a look at Oak Harbor. I know this is a council priority and a priority by the mayor. As you know, and know much better than I do, but as I've learned over the last year, walking from Friend Marsh all the way to the marina, looking at all the different dikes, levees, bulkheads, and an assortment of different things put in over the last few decades. We have, quite an issue to understand and to get that first generation of infrastructure to serve future generations. And so there's a lot of complexities nowadays with what you can and cannot do. And again, the average citizen who, hey, I put in a bulkhead, and why don't you just replace the bulkhead? Well, that's not, as you know very well, that's not the way it works today. There's a lot of changes with the environmental laws. We have to look at soft edges, not hard edges. We have to look at what the natural solutions are, which are all good, but create change and a lot of process, and sometimes can be very expensive, which does create difficulties. And then, as you know, this winter we had the king tide, which also some barometric pressure, and it went over those levees, and it flooded out a number of private properties, and it caused damage to our city park system. And so this is a real threat to us, and I imagine nature's got more for us in the years to come. And so this grant opportunity is for us to do long-range planning. Ecology can provide up to a maximum of $250,000. And then lastly, I want to conclude by saying that Wendy Horn, our grant coordinator, did all the work, had me provide some comments and some others' input, but she is fantastic. And so I just really want to do a shout out to Wendy. And any questions?
So before I take it to council, I want to make sure that we had no input from our public on
That's
this.
correct, Mayor. We received no input on this item.
Okay. Councilor Stuckey.
I'm assuming just from reading the packet, there's no matching. this isn't a matching grant.
Yeah, and I asked Wendy that too, because I was a little surprised. And so there's a lot of complex detail about what Ecology used to do, and this used to be to kind of help cities do their shoreline master planning, and they've got some additional funding, as I understand it. And so you're right, this is kind of a unique program where they've kind of got cash to give away. I think it might be a negotiation as we turn in our application, so I'm not quite sure. But we are planning on turning an application if you approve us to move forward, and then if any of those details come out, we'll have to come back to you. Because it's not a normal grant program, I guess is the brief answer.
We don't hear cash to give away very often. So,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yes.
Priority when I first came here. First thing they did when I came here 5 years ago, almost, my anniversary's coming up this month, so, in the city, so, is looking at the shoreline. We put it on the plan, like a $2 million in the capital improvement plan, but we really didn't have a plan to really develop the project. So this is really critical for us to do this plan and really look at what the shoreline should be. And our Public Works Director did a kind of good job of talking about, we have some erosion issue right now. We put in these temporary big bags, but we don't really have a plan moving forward. We already have erosion in other locations. And so we kind of did a similar thing, a smaller scale with the marina, and that was really successful. The council chose not to go ahead with some of the recommendations here, but this will really provide some recommendations here. And the good news is we've got some grant funding to help us do that. So I think this is a critical area that we need to focus on, and so I really recommend we proceed with this grant.
Anyone else? Yeah. Councilor Stuckey?
I move to approve Resolution 23-17, authorizing the mayor to approve an application to the Washington State Department of Ecology for the Shoreline Planning Competitive Grant.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. That motion reads exactly like the recommended motion before us. That motion was made by Councilor Stuckey, seconded by Councilor Hoffmeyer. Seeing no other questions or input, all in favor signify by raising your right hand. That looks, I can't see Councilor Eisen, or I mean Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes, she is voting affirmatively.
Okay, that passes unanimously. Okay. We'll move on to item number 8. And this is under contracts and agreements. Agreement with the Oak Harbor Rotary Club for placing a windmill in Windjammer Park. And we still have our Public Works Director, Mr. Schuler. Go ahead, Steve.
Very good, and as many of you recognize, we have Brian Jones and Steve Schwabe, two of the project leaders here tonight. Brian is going to be doing the presentation, so please come on up. I'll just be providing a quick overview of the agreement and really focusing on what are the city's obligations. And then we have an opportunity for Mr. Jones to provide us an update of where their organization is with this project. All right, so there's the old windmill, beautiful picture from the 1970s. All right, let me hit the right button, Tim. Thank you, Tim. All right. So in September 28th, 2022, Mr. Jones came to the council and provided an update and a vision on this, and the mayor and the council provided a lot of positive feedback, and then tonight, again, I'm just going to provide a brief overview, and the Rotary and their board has taken a look at this draft agreement, and they have signed it. So this tonight is really to present to you, to make sure you understand what that agreement says, and to see if you have any revisions or any questions about it. Okay. All right. Our city obligations really can be summed up on 4. The first one is that after the city accepts ownership of this new structure, we would then be the ones that would be responsible for both its operation and its maintenance for its foreseeable lifetime, which hopefully is for many generations. And so that is probably our biggest obligation by far. 2 is a payment of $49,500, and council is very familiar with this. This follows that $2 per citizen per RCW 3521-278, when we work with community service organizations, and we have, as you know, we have done this before. You're allowed that $2 per citizen every year, so you can't do it multiple times. So we just need to kind of figure out, if we wanted to do multiple ones of these in the future, you just got to keep track of what year they're kind of obligated for. And then thirdly, permit fees. The Rotary Club would be responsible for working with our planning department and doing the actual negotiation and permitting and understanding what the issues are. And if the building department says everything looks good, but you don't meet ADA over here and you need to do this, they'd be doing all that labor and organization. What the city has agreed to is to pay those fees, whether they be city, state, or federal. So we won't be doing the actual, if you want to call it, working with our planning department or building department to figure out all those structural and building issues. That will be the Rotary Club, but we will be paying the fees. And then lastly is the water and wastewater connection. So after a structure is built, typically in most buildings, the water and sewer line are extended 5 feet beyond the building envelope, and then it'd be the city's responsibility. A lot of this work can be done in-house to connect those to the water main and to the sewer main. And we guess that's around $6,000 for the work. All right, here's the approximate location, located there kind of northwest of the lagoon, next to the sidewalk. And then the Rotary Club and this organization have a beautiful website. I know most of you have already seen it, been involved with it. It is really beautifully done, and so just here's 2 quick snapshots I took of that. And this slide is for Mr. Jones to really provide an update.
Mr. Mayor and City Council, thank you for having me back again. So, and know a lot of you, well, all of you. So, and I appreciate your support on this project. With regards to an update, I'll open it up for questions and you guys can ask me whatever you want, but where we sit in the planning stages right now is we have moved our engineered plans to an architect who is providing blueprints and then an outward look of what the windmill will look like when it's completely done. Engineering plans differ from architectural plans because engineers aren't artists and they don't make things look pretty, but they make things work. And we're really excited about the engineering plans because the estimated life of this thing is going to be somewhere between 100 and 200 years based on how we're constructing it. So we're very excited for that. Once the architect is done with the final mock-up, we will be able to have renderings and we can provide that to you. And then we'll go back to city staff and ask them, things like colors. We want to fit with the theme of the park, or do we want to go traditional? We're not dictating this. We want to work with city staff to make something that everybody's proud of. The other side of what we're doing is fundraising the heck out of things right now. We have our brick program where we're getting people every month who are buying pavers that are going to have their name on it. We'll be part of a paver garden around the windmill. We are searching out corporate sponsors who are making larger donations, who will be on plaques on the windmill. We have a great promotion with Flyers Restaurant where Tony Savoy and Jason Tritt, they brewed a specific summer ale dedicated to the windmill and are donating proceeds from every beer that's sold to this project. And we have many, many, many people that are offering their labor, their expertise, and their money to be a part of this. If you go to our website, ohwindmill.com, you can check it out. You can go to our donors page, and you can see the people that have actually written checks already. Our Rotary Club has created a process where we're going to be sending out, thank you letters that talk about their donation to our 501c3 foundation in support of this project. But I'll open it up for questions.
Let me just do this. Before we get to questions, in your packet tonight, you see the recommended action, and is that the City Council authorize the mayor to sign an agreement with the Rotary Club of Oak Harbor to construct a windmill in Windjammer Park. But again, both Mr. Jones and I are here to answer any questions, whether they be for Rotary or for me on the city side. Thank you.
I'd also like to introduce Steve Schwalbe, who is our Rotary Board President, or Secretary, who's a big part of this project too. He's joined us today, so sorry, Steve. Yep.
So before we turn to council, I'll verify that we've like to verify that we've gotten no input.
That's correct,
From our
Mayor. We
public?
received no input on this.
Okay, then turn to council for questions, input. Yes, Councilor Hoffmeyer.
Yeah, I guess I have a question for both of you. Brian, are we doing enough to help? Steve, is there anything more we can do to help them? And I guess finally, when is the groundbreaking?
We're incredibly appreciative of the help that city staff has given us through this process. They allowed us to jump some early hurdles with location, some code stuff that you guys have already taken care of to pave the way for this. We've had some people in the city's planning department help us with ADA requirements because this is going to be a usable, rentable structure for the people of the city to enjoy. Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to point out, I watched your workshop and it looked like there was a whole lot of city input, citizen input on this. Seemed like it was the #1 thing that people wanted added back to Windjammer Park. So I'm very excited to hear that the people of the town speaking about this. I know they speak on Facebook because I see Mr. Stuckey's comments all the time, which make me happy, and Mr. Hoffmeyer's. So I appreciate the support, guys.
Councilor Wiesner.
I'm thrilled to make the motion that the city council authorize the mayor to sign an agreement with the Rotary Club of Oak Harbor to construct a windmill in Windjammer Park.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. The motion reads like the recommended action in the packet. That motion was made by Councilor Wiesner and seconded by Councilor Marshall. Councilor Stuckey?
Yeah, I've got a few questions.
Okay.
I'll try to rapid fire them here. The windmill is going to be 80 feet tall, is that correct? 83.
The structure of the building is 53.5 feet tall. If the blades were positioned straight up and down, which they will not be, they would be 83 feet tall. But based on the recommended position of the blades, we're looking at an X, basically, so they're high enough off the ground. And Mr. Ryan Wallen, who is the Chief Operating Officer of P&L General Contractors, estimates that those would put it at 72 feet high.
How tall is that in comparison to the last windmill?
It's about 30 feet taller.
Okay. And how much have you raised thus far?
We have about $100,000 in grants and another $40,000 in individual donations.
And how much at this stage is estimated to be needed to be raised?
Another $150,000.
So this is being done a lot with in-kind donations, I'm guessing.
No. That's I'm just talking about cash. The total cost to build this thing is going to be somewhere around $700,000, but we have a lot of in-kind. Ryan thinks we can build it for about $500K. I always estimate way over. I've seen some projects go from 0 to 2x. So a majority of the project is funded by in-kind donations, not cash.
And as I understand, please correct me if I'm wrong, the reason for the height or the size is for a bigger interior that can be rented out.
That's correct. We wanted to make it large enough that people could use it as not just a storage shed, which is what the old one turned into, that fit a big lawnmower. The intention is that people can enjoy this thing. So it's 2 stories, the second story to have a deck around it for people to be able to rent out for special events. The same way they would rent out the kitchens, the Adirondack kitchens in the park right now.
Do we have any guess on how often we would like to see this rented out?
I think you should rent it out every chance you get.
Well, I understand that, but what I'm getting at is it's a pretty big scale. It's pretty ambitious, and not that there's anything wrong with that. I'm just hoping that it is utilized as we hope, because otherwise there could probably be a savings of money and maybe installed quicker if the scale wasn't so large.
So the bigger footprint doesn't give you a ton of people, right? I mean, like the downstairs, I think the maximum occupancy is somewhere around 18, the upstairs somewhere around 16, right? And you're not talking about people together as sardines, but there are a lot of regulations related to that we've been learning from the city staff. So I think you want to do it once and never have to do it again. I believe in do the project right. Don't put a project up there where people look at it and go, gosh, that's not as good as we had thought, or they really skimped on this. We do this one time, we do it right, and we let generations enjoy this thing. By the way, I'm not Dutch, just love this town. So.
And I do see in the contract that there talks about outreach with the city. Has there been any preliminary discussion on what that will look like? Or has that just been the contract not discussed yet?
When you mean outreach, this is collaborative, right? We didn't want this to be a city project because then it doubles the cost of the thing, right? We know we can do this. We have the expertise. I mean, we have an incredible general contractor who's been building buildings forever, that's local, that is passionate about the project, right? So we know we can do it. We know we can raise the money because the people that are supporting this are really good at that. But as far as outreach, we're not dictating terms to the city. We asked, hey, where can we put it? And they gave us a location, and we're really excited about the location. And we're not saying, well, it's going to be painted exactly how the old one was. We're saying, what, the park is getting more beautiful every year, right? Let's make sure that this thing fits in the park and that the city is happy with it. Now, if the city staff comes back and says, well, okay, hey, why don't we make it traditional? Why don't we make it look similar to what the Fransons have up at the hotel? We can go that route, but we're not dictating it.
Sure. I'm kind of getting to the outreach of the community. I noticed that there were some changes made to the website today and some social media activity, which is great. I would just ask that continues because I'm surprised how many people don't realize the windmill is coming back, and this has been in the works for a little bit of time.
We've been working on this for over a year, right?
Sure.
And so, but it was too early for us to go and start all the big publicity a year ago. We didn't know what we didn't know. We needed to get through these steps. And the last thing we want to do is, get all the momentum at the beginning and then it's gone when we actually have to deliver and make these things happen. So we've intentionally not put as much out there. The newspaper has written like 3 articles and they haven't asked me for a comment yet. So, we've kept it relatively quiet. And several of the council members are on this group that are putting this thing together. And so we wanted to make sure we did this thing the right way and that we weren't going to break any laws and that we were going to have a great relationship with the city, which I'm really grateful for, Mr. Schuler and Mr. Smith and the rest of the staff. I mean, your archaeologist, Gideon, has been amazing. He helped me start this thing. So just want to say we're really grateful.
2 more questions, I'm done, I promised. In the contract, I noticed that the contract is good till December 31st, 2027. I'm getting that's probably like a worst case scenario.
Yeah, I sure hope. I don't have it in me to go that long.
No,
we got to
no.
get this done before that.
And no one's going to hold you to this. I mean, is there any thought on a timeline? I mean, I know you don't want to say anything too firm because then, you miss the timeline, but any thought on a timeline?
Yeah, if we can get the plans back, the blueprints back, I'd like for us to dig the hole, do the geotesting, get the permits, dig the hole, and put some concrete in the ground before winter. If we can't, then it'll be spring.
Okay.
And either works. I just like the idea of the concrete settling over the winter.
And my last question is maybe a little uncomfortable, and maybe to the council members that have been on council for a little while. It is amazing that the Rotary Club is stepping up to do this, and it's most appreciated. But one thing I see over and over is that the council at the time, the windmill was taken down for reasons, but that the city never got around to put
process to rebuild it, but at that point in time, the majority of council didn't feel as though it should end up on the capital improvements project plan, right? And this would be a major build for the city of Oak Harbor and would require some long-range budgeting and long-range planning. It's not something that we would typically be able to write a check out of an individual annualized budget. And the subject came up a couple more times amongst council, and came up at a couple of our retreats, and the majority of previous council was not considered an item to put on the capital improvement plan. And so at the same time, we were experiencing lack of bids on projects. We were having struggles even getting a bid on building the kitchens that were built down at Windjammer Park. If I remember right, we ended up with one bidder on that entire project, and it ended up significantly higher than what anybody would ever imagine. And we are heading into a time where it was becoming more and more obvious that the windmill as a public works project would cost the city literally millions. If we're paying $1 million to build a kitchen, what's it going to cost to build a 72-foot tall structure? And so that's when the reality came that some of us got together, including Councilmember Marshall, and we met one night down at Penn Cove Tap Room and thought through the process, understanding, quite frankly, Fort Nugent Park was our model, right? We looked at Fort Nugent Park. In fact, quite frankly, the discussion happened a couple of days after I'd attended Fort Nugent Park and refreshed my memory over how that was constructed. We've got the plaques there showing the community together building it. We've got all the names of all these people who were involved, C. Johnson Construction and Jet City, and I thought to myself, a lot of those guys are still in town, and a lot of those guys, went to school with us and have an attachment to that windmill, and I bet you a lot of those guys would step up for something like this, and so that's where it was born. So I guess to answer your your short question with a short answer, it's because it wasn't on the horizon, and I guess if nothing else, some of us got impatient waiting on the city to build it, and looked at the reality of how long it would take to build it within a city budget, that it would be a multi-year project, and we felt as though through this sort of a method as a community build, we could get it built sooner, get it built less expensive, and quite frankly, have something for the community to really be proud of, because we're going to do it with our own hands, right? This is going to be the community's windmill. And the reality is, that's part of the thought process when it was originally built, right? It was a contractor that built it, but they used a lot of local donated labor that pitched in to put that thing together. So I think this is just a continuation of not so much that I don't think any of us felt as though the city wouldn't eventually step up to the plate and then rebuild it. But the reality is, for them to do it, it's a long ways out, and it was on no 6-year plan as of yet. So impatience, I guess, is the answer to your question.
We believe this will be iconic for the city. It'll be the landmark in the city, right? You have the roller barn, you'll have the windmill, and it'll be one of those things that makes the town unique.
So it looks like do we have internet back?
And she's the one who's the host. No, I opened it first.
So I
So you're shutting
will,
everybody in?
I guess I will tell those that have missed us because the internet went down, that the
Okay, I'm
internet
just gonna
went
tell
down.
everybody on social media.
And we had a short intermission, hoping it would come back up. And then we just started the meeting without internet a few minutes ago. And we are still on the same topic, 8A agreement with the Oak Harbor Rotary for placing a windmill in Windjammer Park. And I reminded council that we do have a motion and a second that reads exactly like the recommended action in the packet. So unless there are any other questions, at this time I will ask for those in favor to please signify by raising your right hand. And that passes unanimously here, and we don't know about Mayor Pro Tem? Or do we have her on the phone? Oh. So we still have a majority, though. That passes with 5 yes votes. Okay.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Yes, thank you, Brian. So I'd like to now move on to section number 10 on our agenda, which is the Oak Harbor Police Department Annual Report 2022. And we have with us our Police Chief, Mr. Dresker, Chief Dresker. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. I tried to break the internet so we wouldn't be broadcasting this, but I guess it didn't work. So we're here to talk about the annual report. You all received a printout, I guess, on your council packet that included this, but now we've given you all a color copy. Julie, I'd ask if you were able to, with Councilmember Munns and Heisen, I've got copies over there for them. If you could, somebody could make sure they get those. Thank you. So we're going to do a split here. Captain Tony Slowick is behind me. I'm going to take the first half. He's going to take the second. So I've been on vacation for a couple weeks. Tony has put together the slides that we're going to be maybe watching. Do I just, okay. Is it going to be on that one too? I mean, I can twist my head, that's okay. But, okay, that's fine. You have 10 seconds. So I do want to make a comment though as we start this. So Chaplain Lawler, Mayor, started the meeting off with this. So he has been, since I've been here, he's been our chaplain, and he's retiring and doing other things. And we will miss him sorely. He has been a great person for us to count on in his capacity, on a lot of ride-alongs, and is an ear open for our officers who work a potentially dangerous and a stressful business. So we will miss him sorely. We're trying to reach out. We're going to be holding a little get-together for him. I don't know that date yet. We're still trying to work that out with him. And so he and his wife, I think, have plans to move, or I'm not sure, but we'll miss them both sorely, of course. And in the interim, for the next year or so, we do have Chaplain David Parker, who is going to be working with us in that role. And he's attended already a law enforcement chaplain academy and has been doing great for us. So we look forward to his working with us at this point. But again, I'd like to thank Ron during this meeting. Much appreciated. Okay, that's all right. I can go with what we have here. Okay. I can move those, that's fine. All right. So I'll look off of that one there. One of the things that I want to, if you look through this, it's got the awards for 2021. And I do want to give kudos to my administrative assistant, Meg Massey. She took all the information that we had and that we've provided, and she put it together with the program we've got, so I appreciate her work on this. I will point out an error of mine. So we also have our 2022 awards. We put the 2021 awards in here, which we often do a little late, so they're appropriate to be in here. I should have also put the 2022 awards, which I did not. And I just want to read down those because they're not in this annual report. In 2022, we gave a life-saving award to Officer Jeff Rang. We gave letters of recognition to Detective Sergeant Jen Gravel, Detective Scott Johnson, Detective Angelina Scalise, Evidence Technician Leslie Morgan, or Scalise, sorry about that. I don't know where I got Scalise from. To AJ is what we call her. And she's going to get me later for messing that up. Employee of the Year for 2022 was Officer Tyler Adamson. Departmental awards for DUI emphasis, Officer Mel Loma. Traffic Officer Keith Kretschmann. 5+2, which we'll talk about a little more, Officer Chantel Ritchie. And then recognition for dedication to all of our staff. We recognize each one of them through their work, through COVID and through all the stuff that finally, I think, ended in 2022, and through a lot of turmoil in our country regarding some of the law enforcement stuff we got. Oh, there it is. Okay, so we abbreviated this to make it shorter. Our mission statement has remained the same since we developed it. We as a team and we as a department developed it when actually the mission statement was in place. We developed the core values. The mission statement's been around, I don't know how long, but we left it the same. We're dedicated to community safety and service. Our core values are respect, integrity, professionalism, accountability, and collaboration. The words on the screen, they also are what we believe. Not advancing now. Okay. This is our organizational chart. I won't go through it all. We do have two captains, one in charge of each division, operations and administration. We have Special Services Division, which is SSD. We have our jail staff. It's labeled jail up there. They're actually called police support officers right now. They do transports for us. They do a lot of assistance with other stuff like evidence, different things like that. Record staff, of course, patrol and detectives. Just of note here, we have 37 total staff. When I started here, we had 39. We've actually reduced our staff, but we've increased our commissioned officers. And most of that came about because of our reorganization of our jail when we closed it down and went to a contract system based on multiple reasons way back, I guess 4 years ago now, something like that. Recognition, we had one of our captains, Captain Bill Wilkie, retire after 32 years of service. We recognized him for that. Captain Slowick didn't because he got to take his place, and no, it was sad to lose for all of us, including Tony, but Tony is filling those shoes and doing a great job. We do miss Bill, of course. And then Brian Bronstein had 20 years of service, Greg Wendell, 5. Of course, everybody has their anniversaries. These are the couple that we recognized during that period, 2022. New hires, so it was a transitional year for us, like we seem to have had quite a few in the last number of years. These are some of our new hires. Eddie Hernandez is an entry level. Todd Wilson came from Port of Seattle. Michael Noah is an entry level. Jay Jones, entry level. Clark Sewell came on as a police support officer for us. Chantel came, I think Marysville was her prior department. And then Dominic is working for us. And bottom right, they got OC sprayed as part of their training, and that's their reactions, trying to get it washed off. Promotions, Sergeant Andriano, John Valenzuela, Jeremy Andriano both got promoted to sergeant, and then of course Tony got promoted to captain, and Tyler was selected as our SRO, school resource officer. So back to the 5+2. So this is a name that I coined back when we developed this when I first got here. These are the areas that the 5 are: the schools, parks, downtown, traffic, and community. And there's a little write-up on what we do with each of those in our strategic plan. Those are our 5 things that we spend discretionary time with and also assigned time. And then the +2 is proactive police work, encompassing a lot of things. Looking for car prowlers, looking for burglars, looking for whatever. And then calls for service. Of course, people calling in, we need to respond and provide quality service. So that's basically our core focus, and a lot of good pictures you'll see. And I'm going to turn this over to Tony to go through the next part, and I'll step aside. I'm just mentally thinking if I covered everything I wanted to, and I think I did. So I'll turn it over to Captain Slowick.
All right, thank you, Chief, and Mayor and Council, thank you. And I also want to say thanks again for coming out for National Night Out last night. It was a great success, and we really appreciate your support. So as we move on here, calls for service last year were up significantly over the prior year and definitely over 2020. You can see our other metrics as in our arrests. So while our misdemeanor arrests might have been lower, our gross misdemeanor and felony arrests were up above 2021. And a lot of those take a lot of time to investigate, a lot of time for officers to handle. Some of our other things like infractions, the enforcement part of our traffic was down a little bit last year over the year prior. However, what we saw was based off of our calls for service increasing, we ended up having a 50% increase of our suspicious calls, which over the previous year, and 100% increase of that same call over the 2 years prior. A lot of those suspicious calls are our mental health calls that we respond downtown. What we're finding is a lot of those calls that were 1 officer or 2 officer calls a year, 2 or 3 years ago, are now a 3 or 4 officer call. And because of some of the de-escalation laws, some of the challenges that we have with some of the law changes, really it takes more time. We need to spend more time, get the resources out there, and that takes away from that discretionary time that we had. So our community engagement in last year was pretty impressive. One thing we did is we started the foundation for a regional SWAT team. You can see that picture in the upper right corner. That's us in Burlington, cutting holes in a roof, and a SWAT search warrant service with Skagit County and a lot of other agencies. We started we conducted a Citizen Academy last year. That's a 10-week program where citizens go through different modules of law enforcement taught by subject matter experts from the police department. We had 10 or 11 citizens graduate from that program last year. We conducted National Night Out, our community safety fairs, and those other things, Coffee with a Cop. Additionally, our detectives, they served over 60 search warrants, executed over 60 search warrants last year, and that's very labor intensive. A lot of those are felony level cases, cases that cross multiple jurisdictions and are needed to prosecute prosecute arrests. So they worked very hard. Our detective division is very young, and there's a lot of in-house training, on-the-job training that went along with that. So I got a few notes here. So I think the other part to mention is, like Chief said, we had 7 new hires or new officers from last year. At one point, we were down 9 officers. So we've had a lot of fluctuation, and 2020 was really challenging for us. But what we're finding is that we hired really good people, and they're very community oriented. We've been out on the bicycles a lot last year, and we're doing that again a lot this year. We heard from the community that was very important to everybody, that visibility and that community engagement, and we've very much been focusing on that, and I think that's a positive thing for our community. And I hear in our recruiting how that is, people are saying, hey, that's a cool thing that we're doing that maybe doesn't happen at other jurisdictions. So with your support, we were able to fund several ARPA requests. So with those, we had the use of force VR training that we implemented last year. Many of you were able to experience the training software, go through some scenarios with that. Really appreciate Councilman for just all your guys' support in the VR system. And that has been very useful for us, really being able to do that in-house customized training for our officers, being able to get scenarios created and getting able to train night shift and day shift. We implemented our drone program at the end of last year, and you can see one of our drones there. We are moving forward with the use of those with our SWAT team and other deployments. We were able to purchase some robot parts and some firearms optics. We re-roofed the house, and we did some HVAC with the building, and we bought some SWAT vests as well. Additionally, last year we were able to surplus 160 pieces of ballistic armor, and that went to Ukraine in support of that operation there. And I think that we've got a great department, and I really appreciate Chief Dresker's leadership and moving forward with the improvements that we've had over this last several years. Unfortunately, law enforcement is a risky business. There's a lot of officer safety concerns, and there were 223 officers lost in the line of duty last year. And so as we move forward, that's something that's always on our mind. That's something that we're fortunate in our jurisdiction to have multiple officers working on a shift versus the county or other jurisdictions that just maybe have a single officer working. And all of that is something that we want to go home to our families and make sure that we're safe. We appreciate all the support that you guys provide us. That is very much felt over next door with our officers and all of our staff. And that's all I have, so Chief.
So I just want to back up on this slide just real quick, and then make one more comment, and then we'll open it up for if you have any questions. Just with the VR system there, and I think everybody's been through that up there. If you haven't, make sure you let us know if you want to go through it again. Just an example of that just brought to mind because it's what we're doing now. So a month ago, there was communication here, and we decided we wanted all of our shifts to go through all the schools. So we're in the process. I think we have one shift left. We're in the process. All of our shifts are going as a shift to each school in our city. They're going through, walking with the SRO through all the schools, and just looking and familiarizing themselves and having some conversation. What if this happen? What if this happened? And then they regroup, and then the shifts have conversations within their own little entity. And then after that, we are putting them all through virtual reality. So all of them are now going into, once they've done that school walkthrough with our VR people and doing a scenario or two, I think it's 2, that is a school-based scenario on a critical incident. So while it's not in and of itself the training cornucopia, it is part of our training program. But that's a good reflection to you as to how we integrate that type of thing, or can integrate those types of things. A step further is, I know our regional SWAT team is doing some grade school training tomorrow. It's not here, it's going to be actually over in Skagit County. They flop back and forth, but it's where they may use a drone or a robot as part of that. So, we try to tie in a lot of different factors and functions as we look at training our people to be more professional, more capable, and being able to handle whether it's just common contacts on the street with people, all the way up to critical incidents that may require a vast amount of resources and instantaneous decisions. And I appreciate Tony, because he's the one that's putting together the school training that we had talked about, and which is going on right now. And I had one other thing, but it totally flipped out of my head, so you get off short tonight. So I think Captain or I are available if you have any questions.
Thank you, Chief and Captain. I was especially impressed to hear about the school and the walkthroughs and what you're doing with each of your groups. I did not know that, and that is really nice to hear. So turn to council for questions. Councilor Hoffmeyer.
Yeah, a couple observations, couple questions. One of them, I know Mayor's made a lot of big decisions in the last 8 years, but I think bringing you on board was probably one of the best and biggest, for sure. What you've been able to do with the department, even in the face of, some national trends that were very ugly, it's not lost on any of us. It has been amazing to watch, and you're always quick to give Captain Slowick the credit he deserves on that too. All of your officers, and maybe the fact that some of them are so young, maybe that's where the energy and real true enjoyment and love for what they're doing seems to come from. Gosh, I think it was just it was one day last week, ended up helping Tyler push a vehicle out of a road. Was at a community event down at Windjammer where AJ Selzy spoke for a moment. It's just you guys have an amazing department, and can't thank you both enough. The question I had, I guess, was who in your department's part of an interview panel when you interview a new hire?
So when we interview for our hires, I step out of that, and I'm at I guess for lack of a better word, a higher level in that chain. So the captains organize that, and typically they'll either do it with the 2 captains, or they may have a sergeant involved, or whoever, as far as an entry level. We go through so many interviews, fortunately or unfortunately, and of course a lot of them we don't look out after that for multiple reasons, or just not the right fit, or they somehow get they don't successfully complete the background process. So if you're talking about interviews of those people that we're looking at, it's an internal process that we use. And then once they're determined to be a potentially correct fit by the captains, then they sit down with me, and then we talk about whether we invite them to what's called a chief's interview. So if they're invited back to the chief's interview, then I have my chance to sit and have a conversation with the person separately from that prior interview. So they go through a little screening process. Their first one is public safety testing, where they're going through a public safety testing process. They do a physical test. Once they're done with that, they're put on a list for whatever departments they think they want to be part of. And then we do our internal testing, and of course they go through HR to set that up. And then we do our interviews, not testing, I'm sorry, our interviews. And then if it makes it to the chief level, they say, hey, this looks like it could be a good candidate, then we'll have my conversations with them. Then we start the background, and then we do polygraphs, we do medical, we do psychological testing, and then we do a full background. So there's quite the process.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, it seems seems your captains must have some real good instincts there with bringing you the right people, so pretty cool.
Yeah, I've generally gone with theirs. I would have to say there's probably one where, you know, it's like, what do you think, what were you guys thinking? No, I'm mostly kidding on that, but, you know, we don't always agree, but generally you do, and that's part of the process. They do their first evaluation and elimination or continuance, and then I look at it and I say, you know, here's my thoughts, and then we have another conversation, and then we decide if we move forward. And that's part of working as a team. I learned through my career building up, especially as an administrative role. You know, I can't be autocratic. I make some autocratic decisions. There's some you just got to make, but you're much better functioning as a team, and then when you can include the sergeants and other people. And I will want to point out, too, and we do have a great staff, and anything that has been accomplished, at least when I'm here, it's because of a great staff. Commission officers, you know, deal with at times brutal and ugly things out there, at times boring and mundane things, and at other times, I mean, you know, you see the gamut of it. That's the job we sign up for. That's what we do. But it's not an easy job. Everybody handles it. So kudos to all our commission officers. But I also want to make sure we understand, you know, we got Lisa and Tammy and Leslie and Teresa and Lacey and Meg and all of our PSOs, Brian and Greg and Teresa, I think I mentioned already, and I'm probably missing somebody. But those are our support staff. Those are the people who are on the streets who don't have that same job, but they deal with a lot of this, all of our paperwork. They read stuff, they see stuff, they hear stuff, they get people coming in. So it truly takes a team effort. And even from there, you go to ICOM and all the dispatchers who are taking these phone calls, who dispatch us and have all the complications. They couldn't talk with us for a period of time today because they were dealing with a medical emergency. I pulled it up and looked, and it was, I think, an 8-year-old or somebody who was having trouble breathing or stopped breathing. I don't know how that turned out. And then, of course, from there, it's fire department work with them, with public works, and then it moves all the way up to you guys. So it truly is, it takes communications and a team effort within the entire city and organization.
Well, thank you both very much, and send my thanks to all your staff.
Councilor Stuckey.
Yeah, thank you. Great report as always. You're probably already on it, but just a reminder, if we can get on the website too, it's always nice to be able to have those. right
Yeah,
at our fingertips.
we'll definitely post this on the website. We
Yeah.
wanted to present this to you guys first, and then.
Appreciate the preview. My other question is, looking at the past year, how are relations with Island County? I mean, I know you look at like the RVs that seem to always be a thing. They're right on the other side of the line. You guys have done an amazing job with that. But are we getting along well with Island County? I mean, is there any tension there at all, or are relations as great as they always have been?
No, I think we have a good relationship with Island County. I think we get, even with all of our regional stuff, I mean, like SMART, they're part of that. They're going to, shortly be, I think, be looking at the regional SWAT team that we're a member of. I know I've talked with the sheriff. They want to join that. So we just got to work out some details. They've got good people. They've got a different jurisdiction and a different organizational structure to deal with that different jurisdiction than we have. Anytime any county has a different policing reality than what most municipal jurisdictions have. We all enforce the same laws. We all have some of the same guidances, but there are differences when you're talking about rural and urban environments. And we have the benefit of having a group of people, officers and such, close, because we're within the geographical area we are. So backups and some of the amount we can deal with. So that being said, there's differences, but I know our officers and the deputies get along real great. I've never had any conflicts with Rick, the sheriff. I think we have a good relationship. There's just differences sometimes you got to work through. I think it's similar to council and commission. We have our different focuses, right? And we try to balance those out. I don't think we have it quite as different as you guys might with the commissioners, though. It's just it's a broad example. We have a good relationship. Very easy to say that with Island County.
Councilor Wittgenstein.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Captain. The report, phenomenal. Just as mental health comes to my mind, so I zoom in to kind of see where that is. And it looks like the calls almost doubled in the last year. How taxing is that on your department?
Yeah, so I think it's very taxing. I think that what we're seeing as, one, we're trying to provide services or we're trying to provide support or help for people. A lot of times it's not a criminal incident that we're responding to, but it is somebody who doesn't want those services or that doesn't want treatment or doesn't want help. And in this state, it's voluntary. So for our officers, it's frustrating a lot of times where they are responding to the same person that needs the same service. We know maybe there's a service out there that wants to provide it, but the person doesn't want it. So a lot of times it's those repeated contacts, and finally you get the person on the right time and the right day, and they want to accept the service. But I think the other part is that it's stressful, and trying to find, just like we talked with Chaplain Lawler, I think he provided a great resource for us where he could engage with our officers and really meet them where they're at, and brought a very calming presence to our commissioned staff and our non-commissioned staff, and so we're looking forward to that same. I mean, he's going to be very missed. We're looking forward to that same thing with Chaplain Parker, but dealing with the mental health crisis that our state's encountering is challenging for everybody. And it doesn't stop at our border. It doesn't stop at Seattle's border. It's everywhere. So it's definitely a team effort.
And if I could just add too, I mean, it's another great example. You talked about the county again, and hopefully I gave the impression that we do have a great relationship, because we really do. We have Christina in there who is working in our department, who works with us as an embedded social worker, a mental health type of environment. And she's a county employee, but she's working in our office. So it's another great partnership there. Every Friday and more than that, I participate in a meeting online with the RNP, the Recovery Navigator Program. And that's with Island County Health and what they've set up. So, and we have a great relationship with them, with Catherine and those guys. And we communicate a lot. So good relationship to them. That is all mental health. There's a lot of mental health stuff in there. If you get frustrations that you guys see, we were having a conversation today about somebody who's in that environment, and I call it the gray area where it doesn't meet a mandatory commitment type of a thing, but isn't necessarily having the support, and how do you get that? And that's a frustrating thing, I think, around our state right now, and even around the country. Certainly grown over the 35 years that I've been in law enforcement. Never thought that I'd be the way we are now. So we have to work with our officers on how do we best make sure they're staying healthy in this environment, as they're expressing some frustrations with not being able to take care of some things.
To follow up on that, what as a city council can we do to help support you and your officers in managing this, whether it's helping them get access to their own services, as well as getting you extra mental health counselors in there if that's possible, or something along those lines?
That may or may not come in the future. I know there's, we've got the luxury of having Christina in there. If we didn't have that luxury, then you may have an ask of you. We think that's going to be a long-term partnership, so I think we're going to be pretty good with that. It's a very complex question. I could give you a lot of answers that you probably don't want to hear right now, so I won't. I would just in a general fashion tell you that we work this job, we do this job. I've been doing it for 35 years. Tony's been doing it for 20-some years, whatever. We've got a lot of people who have been doing it, and we become very knowledgeable in some of the things that we deal with. I'm not going to call us experts in everything, but we see the same things. We see it in more detail. I guess as a broad response to you right now is, if we give input on something, you might, as you I think do, listen to it, and ask us questions if you get something from us that you want answers to. But we'll bring you things, and you got to understand. And I would ask you to understand that we don't bring it lightly if we do. So that's a broad answer, but that's what I can give you for right now, unless Tony has something else.
I guess I would just add that it monopolizes a lot of our time, which takes us, as you see, out of other elements of the core policing things that we're looking to do and support the community. So Because we haven't grown much as a commission staff, I think that is something in the future that we need to look at. You know, it's definitely having more commissioned officers to support all of the elements of law enforcement that we need to provide to this community.
So, and I'll give you one example of that too from today. So we had 3 or 4 officers deal with a arrest situation. And that person was arrested, and then we had to have 2 of our PSOs, our police support officers, go to the hospital with that person for a couple hours and stand by with that person. That person was then booked into jail in Island County, but became another issue. They called us up, says that person's got to go back to the hospital. So I think right now we have an officer sitting out at the hospital in Coopville on this guy that's our arrest that we can't just release because of the circumstances. So all that takes is a burden, and it becomes a little bit more of a burden when you have the increased mental health problems that we see nowadays with people we deal with.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Yes, Councilor Marshall.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Chief. Tony, I appreciate everything you guys do. Chief, I've always been impressed by your leadership and certainly with your department and their accessibility. One question that's come up in the last year is why we don't have a K-9 unit. And I think I talked to Tony about it when the question first came up, but you know, if you want to answer that publicly, I appreciate it.
So I'll be happy to. So first I'll give you a tad bit of background. I was a K-9 handler in the military. So age myself a little bit here, but 84 to 85, I was in South Korea stationed for 1 year, and I had a K-9. So I went through Lackland Air Force Base, got training, and then had a K-9 when I was over there for 1 year. When I got to my other department, we had K-9s. Those K-9s eventually got faded out through multiple reasons. The final one was I won't mention the amount, but it was a significant suit that they lost because of a bite. When I became captain, I actually talked with my chief back then and said, I'd really like to give K-9s another shot here. We brought 2 in, and 3 years later, 2.5 years later, we eliminated them again. So there's a variety of factors. If you have the perfect dog and you have the perfect handler and you have a good set of rules and a good set of policy and a good set of procedures, you're doing the best you can and you can have good stuff. Also, you're going to expect a lot more overtime for training and deployment, and that officer typically has to be on a little different schedule, which means an additional body, typically. You're going to have to replace that dog after a period of time, depending upon the circumstances. And a kicker is, with a lot of they tried to pass a law where you couldn't even put a dog off leash, which didn't quite pass. But there's a lot of factors, and you have a lot of liabilities, but there are some good things. But I can tell you where the state's going. I'm still not convinced they're not going to do something different here. When you have a good dog and a good handler who are working good training and staying proficient, and you're utilizing them right and all those things, a dog is a great thing. But I'm just not convinced we can devote that level of resources and everything for that. And to be honest with you, a couple times a year, maybe that dog you'd be saying, I wish I had that dog. So is it worth all of that for that? And we can call on others, but a lot of departments nowadays are not, unless you're a bigger department, are not getting into the K-9s. So, in the future, somebody can determine to try to bring one back. It's just not where I believe we should be at this point in time.
Yes, Councilor Hoffmeyer.
I have one more quick question, and I'm aware that you might not have the answer tonight, and that's fine. If 27 commissioned officers isn't enough, what is the number we need to be at? And I know that might be a loaded question.
Well, Mayor and Blaine? No. So we actually have 28 is what we're authorized. So we have 28, and we've got 2 openings right now. We have a guy starting on the 15th, I think, in the academy. We've got an interview. In fact, I got a chief's interview tomorrow with one guy, and then we're hoping a lateral may want to speak out to us. And then we're looking at a 29th as we anticipate retirements as to when do we hire so we can get somebody trained. So we have flexibility, as we've discussed with the mayor and Blaine a little bit on that, just to trying to time our replacement type of thing. I think we need to have a future conversation, and I would tell you that future conversation should probably take place January to March of next year. We know we'll be having a new mayor. Council will, I think we have at least one seat that's got to be filled. I don't know. I know there's a bunch of that going on. So I think we just need to look at that new year, take a fresh look at it, and determine where we're at. I think we, in my opinion, and I've had this conversation with Blaine and the mayor, I think we need to look at an increase. What that number is remains to be a conversation for that future. And I think January to March is a good time frame to have it. I think you got to figure out a funding source for it, right? And whether that's a 1/10 of 1% or a tax or a levy or whatever. We just did a fire department thing. So I think if we're looking at increasing, do we have money in a pot or do we not? If not, then how do we do it? So I think there has to be that conversation, and I would suggest to you that it should take place sometime between January and March of next year. Does that work for you for right now?
Thank you.
Okay.
Works for me. Councilor Wittgenstein.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up on that for a historical component of that as we think towards the future. When was the last time, when was that 28 number decided, and what was our population at that point?
So that's a little complex too, and I don't have the numbers in front of me. I can provide them to you. So I look back, of course, when I got here, I looked back at our historical records, and our department went through all the documents and looked through all the chief stuff and all that. So we had, I think, 31 officers. Is that correct? 32 in 1997. And the reason we had 32 in 1997 is I believe 3 of those positions were COP funded. So they were funded through a federal program, which back then I think it was you commit to 3 years, you received 100%, I think 80 and then 70 or something. There was something like that where you received that money from the feds, and then at the end of that you took over 100% of that cost. So we had that I think for 5 years, and don't quote me, I've got the number somewhere, and then it dropped. And I think that was 97. I think it dropped before 2008, because 2008 we dropped a couple more positions. But we dropped them, I think, probably close to after that. I think it was a 5-year period. And then it dropped down like 3 positions, so that would have been like the 29 or 28. And then in the 2008 financial deal, it went down to 26. And we were operating at 26 forever in our department. We only got up to 28 when you as council authorized the changes that we proposed 4 years ago, where we modified the jail, went to a contract, reduced our staffing in our jail because we no longer had the in-house jail. We went from 26 to 28 officers. But back at one time with a COP grant, which are harder to get nowadays and more competitive, we had 31 officers. So I think that was a good number.
So we're really kind of sitting at, if we were sitting at just around 24,000 people inside city limits with 29 police officers, 28 police officers presently. So, I mean, we're, every 2,500, one for every 2,500 residents?
So you can do the division on that. I think we were at 1.16 per 1,000 residents, if I recall correctly. The national average is 1.44, but you can't take that because there's a lot of like southern states and stuff where they have a different crime level and you need more officers, or eastern states. And I think the Washington State average, and this is like 2-year-old data, I think the Washington State average was I think 1.3 or 1.2 or something like that per 1,000 something. We're the lowest. We're 51 out of 50 states in the country, including Puerto Rico. And you can get those stats from WASPIC, Chiefs and Sheriffs Association. We're the lowest state with the lowest per capita, or average officer per 1,000. When we had the 31 back in 97, I think we're around 17 or 18,000 population. We're now at around 24,000 population. And it's a different type of thing we're dealing with now with some of the issues you guys are well aware of.
Okay, anyone else? Well, thank you very much, Chief and Captain. We appreciate it. And
thank you for your time.
Thanks for 20 years, Tony. His wife reminded me last night that he's been with us for 20 years. Okay, we'll move on to, I think at this point in time, we're going to executive session. And let me find out where I'm at here. So at this time, the council will move into executive session to consider the selection of a site or the acquisition of real estate by lease or purchase as pertains to price per RCW 4230-110, Section 1B, and to discuss with legal counsel litigation or potential litigation per RCW 4230-110, 1/1. Anticipated duration is 25 minutes. Action may or may not be taken upon return to the open session, and executive sessions are not open to the public. Okay? Move into executive.
The council has announced that they will remain in executive session for an additional 5 minutes. They will return at 8:30. Thank you.
See it in just a bit. That's my little dance I was doing for her. Like your shapes? Well, they have regular sauce. They have, yeah, small sauce. I just do the barbecue every time. I'm a boring guy. I mean, I'm just wondering. I'm just curious. I would get one thing. They have like a spicy or sriracha swirl. Yeah, I know sriracha. Yeah, right. I mean, you live right. I'm a spokesperson. I got my one thing here.
Give them the coupon code council.
Okay, the Oak Harbor City Council has been in executive session. We are now back into regular session. There were no decisions made, and I don't believe there's any action further for this group. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second, is there a second? Okay, with that, we'll raise our hands and say goodbye. Thank you all for listening.